The travel cube moved faster than light through the dark tunnels of the multiverse. The walls of the cube were transparent, and outside there were streaks of blue and purple light passing by like shooting stars. Inside the cube, the air was heavy and silent. Everyone was feeling the pressure of what was coming next. Gohan sat on the white floor with his legs crossed. He was trying to calm his mind after the battle with General Vex. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He could still feel the phantom pain of the nightmare illusion where he saw Cell hurting Pan. It made his hands shake just a little bit. He squeezed his hands into fists to make them stop. He told himself that it was not real. Pan was safe on Earth, but the fear was a useful thing. It reminded him of what he was fighting for. He was not fighting for glory or for fun. He was fighting to protect the people he loved. Gohan opened his eyes and looked around the crowded cube. To his left sat his father Goku. Goku was looking out of the wall at the passing lights. His face was unusually serious. Usually, Goku was excited about fighting a strong guy. But this was different. Goku knew that if they lost this fight, there would be no more fights ever again. There would be no more universe. Next to Goku stood Vegeta. The Prince of all Saiyans was standing with his arms crossed over his chest. He was tapping his foot on the floor. Tap, tap, tap. It was a fast rhythm. It showed that Vegeta was impatient and maybe a little bit nervous too. But Vegeta would never admit he was nervous. He looked like he wanted to punch something right now. On the other side of the cube stood the warriors from Universe 11. Jiren the Grey was standing like a statue. He did not move. He did not blink. His eyes were closed and his massive arms hung by his sides. His energy was perfectly calm. It was like a deep ocean with no waves. But Gohan knew that under that calm surface there was a power that could shake the stars. Next to Jiren was Toppo. Toppo was in his normal form now, not his god of destruction form. His big moustache twitched as he looked at Whis. Dispo the Speed Warrior was sitting down and rubbing his leg. His leg was healed now thanks to Whis, but he still looked tired. Whis was standing at the front of the cube holding his staff. He was steering the cube through the hyperspace shortcuts. Beerus stood next to him. The god of destruction looked worried. His ears were flattened against his head. He kept looking at the timer on Whis' staff. He asked Whis how much longer it would take. Whis said they would be there in 2 minutes. Beerus grunted. He said he hoped the Grand Priest could hold on for 2 minutes. He said Kumbar was not a normal enemy. Kumbar was an ancient evil that existed before the universes were born. Gohan stood up and walked over to Jiren. He felt like he should say something. Jiren opened his eyes. Those big black eyes looked at Gohan. Gohan said, "Thank you for coming with them." He said they could not win without Jiren's help. Jiren looked at Gohan for a long moment. Then he spoke. His voice was deep and rumbling like thunder. He said he did not come for Gohan. He came because it was his duty. He said evil must be stopped no matter where it is. But then Jiren added something else. He said that he saw Gohan's power back on the planet. He said Gohan had a strength that was different from Goku or Vegeta. He said Gohan fought with his heart, not just his fists. Gohan nodded. He took that as a compliment. Suddenly, the cube began to shake violently. The blue and purple lights outside disappeared. Everything went black. It was a thick and heavy blackness. It was not just the absence of light. It felt like the darkness was pressing against the glass walls of the cube. It was trying to get in. Goku jumped up. He asked what was happening. Whis tapped his staff on the floor to stabilize the cube. Whis said they had arrived. He said they were now in the world of Void. This was the place where the Tournament of Power happened. It was supposed to be an empty place with no time and no space. But now, It was filled with Kamba's energy. The cube slowed down and the walls dissolved. They stepped out onto a surface that felt like cold stone. Gohan looked around and gasped. They were standing on the floating platform of the Grand Priest Palace, but it did not look like the beautiful divine place Gohan remembered. The sky was usually a bright white color here, but now the sky was covered in purple veins. It looked like the sky was sick. Giant cracks were spreading across the white void. Black smoke was leaking out of the cracks. The beautiful floating pillars of the palace were broken. Some of them were crumbling into dust. In the center of the platform stood the Grand Priest. He was a small man with blue skin and white hair. He usually had a gentle smile on his face, but today he was not smiling. He was holding his hands up toward the sky. A giant barrier of blue light was covering the main palace building. Outside the barrier, there were thousands of shadow monsters clawing at the light. They were trying to break in. The Grand Priest looked tired. Sweat was dripping down his face. Behind him stood the other angels, Vados, Korn, Mojito, and all the others. They were all sending their energy into the barrier to keep it strong. Whis ran forward. He shouted, "Father, we are here." The Grand Priest looked at them. He did not lower his hands. He said he was glad they made it. He said Kamba had already started the assimilation. He pointed up at the biggest crack in the sky. Gohan looked up and saw something terrifying. Through the crack in the reality, he could see a giant eye. It was an eye made of red energy. It was bigger than a galaxy. It was staring down at the palace. It was Kamba. He was so big that he could not even fit inside the dimension. He was trying to squeeze through the cracks. The Grand Priest explained the situation quickly. He said that Zeno was inside the palace sleeping. Kamba had used a spell to put Zeno into a deep sleep, so he could not erase Kamba instantly. If Kamba broke the barrier, he would eat Zeno while he slept. If he ate Zeno, he would gain the power to erase and create anything. He would remake the multiverse into a world of eternal darkness. The barrier was the only thing stopping him. But the barrier was getting weaker. And Kamba had sent his elite army to destroy the angels who were maintaining the barrier. Goku cracked his knuckles. He said, "So we just have to beat the bad guys and wake up Zeno-chan, right?" The Grand Priest said it was not that simple. He said Kamba's army was made of pure void energy. They could not be killed by normal means. They had to be erased completely. He looked at Gohan. He said, "That is why you are here, Gohan. You have the power of destruction. You and Toppo and Beerus must lead the attack. You must erase the Void Soldiers so they cannot regenerate. Goku and Jiren and Vegeta must protect the destroyers while they work." Suddenly, a loud roar shook the platform. The black smoke from the cracks gathered together on the ground. It formed into a massive shape. It was a giant monster that looked like a dragon made of oil and slime. It had 4 wings and 3 heads. Each head was breathing purple fire. Behind it, hundreds of smaller shadow warriors appeared. They were the elite guard of Kamba. They did not look like the weak wolves from before. These warriors wore armor made of black bone. They held weapons that glowed with red light. The leader of the shadow army stepped forward. He was a humanoid figure, but he had no face. Just a blank black surface where a face should be. He wore a cape made of shadows. He pointed a sword at the group. He did not speak with a mouth because he did not have one. But his voice echoed in their heads. He said, "Give up. The void is inevitable. Light is a lie. Darkness is the truth." Gohan stepped forward. He felt the familiar fire of the beast form rising inside him. His hair turned silver and grew long. His eyes turned red. He was ready. Beside him, Goku shouted and turned Super Saiyan Blue. Vegeta turned Super Saiyan Blue evolved. His royal blue aura flared up. Jiren clenched his fists, and a wall of red heat blasted out from his body. Toppo shouted and turned into his god of destruction form. His body became wide, and his skin turned dark purple. The battle began with a sonic boom. The faceless general swung his sword and sent a wave of black energy at them. Gohan and Jiren moved at the same time. They vanished and reappeared in front of the energy wave. Jiren punched the wave with his right hand. Gohan punched it with his left hand. Their punches met the energy and shattered it like glass. The shockwave knocked the front row of shadow soldiers backward. Goku and Vegeta flew into the air. They aimed for the three-headed dragon. The dragon breathed purple fire at them. Goku used his instant transmission to teleport behind the middle head. He kicked it in the neck. The dragon roared. Vegeta flew straight through the fire. He did not care about the heat. He blasted the left head with a volley of yellow energy blasts. The dragon thrashed and whipped its tail. It hit Vegeta and sent him crashing into a broken pillar. Vegeta bounced off the pillar and flew right back. He shouted that he was the Prince of Science, and a lizard made of mud could not stop him. On the ground, the fight was chaos. Toppo was a tank. He walked forward and ignored the attacks of the shadow soldiers. When a soldier got close, Toppo would grab them with his big hands. He would shout Hakai, and the soldier would turn into purple dust and vanish. But there were so many of them. For every one he erased, two more appeared. Dispo was using his speed to run circles around the enemies. He was moving so fast he looked like a red laser beam. He would hit a soldier 100 times in 1 second, and then move to the next one. Gohan was fighting the faceless general. This enemy was strong. He was much stronger than General Vex. The general moved like smoke. Gohan tried to punch him, but his fist would go right through the general's body. Then the general would become solid and cut Gohan with his sword. Gohan dodged a slash that would have cut his head off. He backflipped and landed on his feet. He analyzed the enemy. He realized that the general was shifting his body between the real world and the void dimension. He could not be hit when he was in the void. Gohan closed his eyes for a split second. He remembered his training with Whis. Whis had taught him to sense the intention of the attack. Gohan waited. The general lunged forward. The sword came down. Just before it hit, Gohan sensed the shift. The general had to become solid to attack. That was the weak point. Gohan opened his eyes. He did not dodge. He caught the blade of the sword between his palms. The energy sizzled against his gloves. The general was surprised. He tried to pull the sword back, but Gohan held it tight. Gohan smiled. He said, "I caught you." Gohan let go of the sword with one hand and placed his palm on the general's chest. He focused his destruction energy. He did not just use raw power. He used the precise control he learned from the angel. He pushed the energy into the general's core. He shouted Hakai. The purple light exploded through the general's body. The faceless warrior screamed silently as his body disintegrated. The black armor crumbled and the shadow faded away. But there was no time to celebrate. As soon as the general died, the giant eye in the sky blinked. A red beam of light shot down from the eye. It hit the barrier around the palace. The barrier cracked. The Grand Priest fell to one knee. He spat out blood. The beam was too strong. The other angels were struggling to hold it back. Whis shouted to Goku. He said, "Goku, you must help us hold the barrier. Your god energy is compatible." Goku looked at the dragon he was fighting. He looked at Whis. He nodded. He kicked the dragon away and flew down to the angels. He dropped out of Super Saiyan Blue and closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. His hair turned silver. His eyes turned silver. He entered the mastered Ultra Instinct state, but he did not use it to fight. He placed his hands on the barrier. The silver energy of Ultra Instinct flowed into the blue barrier. It acted like a glue. It repaired the cracks. The Grand Priest looked at Goku and nodded. He said, "Thank you, Goku." Now the fighters were split up. Goku was busy holding the sky. That left Vegeta, Gohan, Jiren, Toppo, and Dispo to fight the army and the dragon. The dragon was angry now. It merged its 3 heads into one giant head. It opened its mouth and started to charge a ball of black energy. It was a void bomb. If it hit the platform, it would destroy the foundation of the palace. Vegeta saw this. He wiped blood from his forehead. He flew up to face the dragon alone. He started to charge his final flash. But he knew a normal final flash would not be enough. He needed more. He thought about his family. He thought about his promise to Kaba. He dug deep into his pride. His eyebrows disappeared. His hair grew longer and turned purple. He entered his ultra ego form. He roared and the power shook the dimension. Jiren saw Vegeta powering up. Jiren jumped into the air. He landed next to Vegeta. He said, "Do not think you can do this alone, Saiyan. We will do it together." Jiren charged a massive ball of red energy in his hand. It was his power impact attack, but 10 times bigger. Vegeta looked at Jiren and smirked. He said, "Fine, just don't get in my way, grey alien." Gohan saw them. He knew they needed one more push. He flew up to join them. He stood between Vegeta and Jiren. He flared his beast aura. The red lightning crackled around him. He cupped his hands at his side. He started to chant the words, "Ka, me, ha, me." The dragon fired the void bomb. It was a huge black sphere that blotted out the light. It rushed toward them with a screaming sound. Vegeta fired his purple final flash. Jiren fired his red power impact. Gohan fired his blue and white Kamehameha. The 3 beams spiraled around each other. They mixed together, purple, red, and blue. They formed a trinity beam. The combined attack hit the void bomb. The collision was silent at first. The energies struggled against each other. The black void energy tried to eat their light, but the light was too strong. The trinity beam pushed the bomb back. It pushed it right back into the dragon's mouth. The dragon's eyes went wide with fear. The bomb exploded inside the dragon. There was a blinding flash of white light. When the light cleared, the dragon was gone. There was nothing left but sparkling dust. The remaining shadow soldiers stopped fighting. They saw their leaders destroyed. They started to panic. Toppo and Dispo cleaned them up quickly. Toppo erased them one by one. Dispo kicked them into the void. Soon the platform was clear. The first wave was defeated. Gohan landed on the ground. He was panting. That attack had used a lot of energy. Vegeta landed next to him. He crossed his arms and looked away. He said, "Not bad for a half-breed." Jiren landed and gave a small nod. It was the closest thing to a high five Jiren would ever do. But the relief did not last long. The Grand Priest shouted a warning. The eye in the sky was glowing again, but this time it did not shoot a beam. It started to widen the crack. Giant black fingers grabbed the edges of the reality tear. Kamba was trying to pull himself into their dimension. The fingers were the size of planets. They were tearing the fabric of space. The sound was awful. It sounded like the universe was screaming in pain. We shouted that the barrier could not hold Kamba's physical body. The barrier was made to stop energy, not mass. If Kamba stepped onto the platform, the whole palace would sink into the void. They had to push him back. But how could they push back a giant who was bigger than a galaxy? Gohan looked at the giant fingers. He felt a moment of despair. The enemy was just too big. How could they fight something that was the size of a universe? He looked at his hands. They looked so small. He looked at his father, who was still pouring energy into the shield. Goku looked determined. He was not giving up. Gohan remembered what Whis told him. A god of destruction does not just destroy matter. He destroys concepts. He destroys the idea of the thing. Gohan had an idea. It was a crazy idea, but it was their only chance. He turned to Whis. He shouted, "Whis, I have a plan." Whis looked at him with sweat on his brow. He said, "Speak quickly, Gohan." Gohan said, "We cannot push him back with force. He is too heavy, but we can cut his connection to this place. We can destroy the anchor he is using to pull himself in." Whis asked what anchor. Gohan pointed at the black slime that covered the platform. He said, "Kamba is using that corruption to grip our reality. If we erase all the corruption at the exact same time, he will slip. He will fall back into the deep void." Whis' eyes widened. He said, "That is brilliant, Gohan. But it requires a massive amount of destruction energy spread over a huge area. It requires perfect control." Gohan nodded. He said, "I can do it, but I need energy. I am running low. I need everyone to give me their energy, like a spirit bomb, but for destruction." Whis nodded. He shouted to everyone. He told them Gohan's plan. He told them to lend Gohan their ki. Vegeta grumbled. He said he hated giving energy. It made him feel like a battery. But he walked over and put his hand on Gohan's back. He said, "Make it count, Kakarot's son." He poured his purple Ultra Ego energy into Gohan. He then walked over. He put his big hand on Gohan's other shoulder. He poured his massive red energy into Gohan. Toppo and Dispo joined in. Even the angels who were not holding the barrier pointed their staffs at Gohan and sent streams of white energy. Gohan felt the power rushing into him. It was incredible. It was painful. His body felt like it was going to explode. His muscles bulged. His silver hair grew even longer and started to stand up straight. His aura changed. It was no longer just purple and red. It turned into a deep, dark violet color. It was the color of pure destruction. It was the color of the void itself, but controlled. Gohan floated up into the air. He closed his eyes and sensed every patch of black slime on the palace. He sensed the corruption on the pillars. He sensed the corruption on the floor. He created a mental map of the infection. He raised both hands high in the air. A giant sphere of violet energy formed above him. It grew bigger and bigger until it was as big as the palace itself. Kamba saw what was happening. The giant eye narrowed. The giant fingers gripped the edges of the reality crack tighter. Kamba roared. The sound shattered the windows of the palace. He tried to speed up his entry. A massive shoulder started to push through the crack. It was covered in black scales. Gohan opened his eyes. They were glowing with a terrifying light. He shouted now. He threw his hands down. The giant sphere of energy did not explode downward. Instead, it split into millions of tiny raindrops of purple light. The rain fell all over the palace. Every drop of rain landed on a patch of black corruption. It was a perfect rain of destruction. The moment the purple drops touched the black slime, the slime hissed and vanished. It was erased from existence. Within seconds, the entire platform was clean. The white tiles shone brightly again. The black veins in the sky disappeared. Kamba roared in frustration. His fingers slipped. Without the corruption to hold on to, he could not grip the reality of the palace. The surface was too slippery for his void energy. His giant fingers slid off the edges of the crack. He flailed his massive arms. Slowly, heavily, the giant form of Kamba fell backward into the darkness of the deep void. He let out one last scream that shook their bones. "I will return. I will eat everything." And then he was gone. The crack in the sky started to close up as the Grand Priest and the angels pushed the reality back together. The blue barrier shone brightly and then faded away as the danger passed. Gohan fell out of the sky. He was completely drained. He hit the ground hard. Goku ran over and caught him before he hit his head. Goku was back in his base form. He looked tired but happy. He said, "That was amazing, Gohan. You saved us. You made him slip like he stepped on a banana peel." Vegeta sat down on a broken rock. He was breathing hard. He said, "It was a decent plan. For a rookie." Jiren looked at the spot where Kamba had been. He said he is not dead. He's just pushed back. He will come again. The Grand Priest floated down to them. He looked much better now. The cracks in the palace were repairing themselves with magic. He bowed to Gohan. He said, "That was a masterful display of destruction energy, Gohan. You used the power of erasure to purify instead of just destroy. It was very elegant. Even Lord Beerus could not have done it better." Beerus crossed his arms and looked away. He mumbled that he could have done it if he wanted to, but Whis poked him with his staff and giggled. Whis said, "Oh really, my lord? I seem to recall you were quite panicked." Beerus shouted at Whis to be quiet. The Grand Priest gathered everyone together. He said the immediate danger was over. Kamba was pushed back into the deep void. It would take him some time to gather his strength and find another way in. This gave them a chance to rest and plan. He said Xeno was still sleeping, but he was safe. But then the Grand Priest's face became serious again. He said, "However, we have a problem. Kamba is learning. He now knows our defenses. Next time he attacks, he will not use a physical assault. He will try to corrupt the timeline itself. He will try to undo the history that made you strong warriors." Goku asked what that meant. The Grand Priest said Kamba has agents that can travel through time. Not just normal time travel like a time machine. They can enter the memories of the universe. They are going to target your past. They will try to kill you when you were weak. Gohan stood up. His legs were shaky, but he stood tall. He said, "Let them try. We will stop them. We are ready for anything now." Just then, a bright light flashed in the center of the platform. A small figure appeared. It was the Supreme Kai of Time, Chronoa. She looked panicked. She was holding a scroll that was burning with black fire. She shouted, "Grand Priest, help! The timelines are disappearing. Someone is erasing the history of Universe 7. Goku looked at the scroll. He saw a picture on it. It was a picture of a small Saiyan baby in a space pod landing on Earth. It was him. But in the picture, the pod was exploding before it landed. Goku felt a chill run down his spine. If that happened, he would never exist. The Grand Priest looked at the group. He said, "It has begun. The war is no longer just here. It is everywhere and everywhen. Warriors, you must prepare for a journey through time. You must save your own past to protect your future." Gohan clenched his fists. He looked at his father. He looked at Vegeta. He knew this was going to be the hardest mission yet. They had to fight their own history. Stay tuned for the next episode where the Z Fighters travel back in time to save baby Goku.